had sort of a dark childhood. It wasn't good. I was just trying to find, what does it all mean? When I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, as Douglas Adams pointed out in his book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm just struggling to find meaning in life here. And then I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The book is so deep, people don't even understand. Sort of highlighted an important point, which is
before we talk about this book, we need to talk about the boy it rescued. Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa with a father who would lecture his children for hours.
Okay, well, so you didn't have a happy childhood.
It was very violent.
We lived in torture. It was emotional, psychological torture.
Calling them worthless and pathetic. At 12, he was sent to a wilderness survival camp called Veldskool, where kids were given tiny rations, divided into groups, and told to attack each other for food and water, a la Lord of the Flies. At school, he was once hunted down at recess, kicked in the head, thrown down a flight of concrete stairs, and beaten until his brother Kimball couldn't recognize his face.
Just a swollen lumps of someone that had been almost beaten to death.
He was hospitalized, and when he went back home, his father yelled at him, called him an idiot, and told him it was his fault this had happened to him. Because Elon, before the beating, had called the kid whose father had just died stupid. Also, according to Walter Isaacson's biography of him, one afternoon, Elon and his brother took a train to an anti-apartheid concert, and on the way, watched a man get stabbed right in front of them, a knife still lodged in his skull.
Like right there, and this guy just drops dead.
Given all of this, and much more we'll explore, it is not that surprising that Elon Musk had an existential crisis in his teens.
What's the meaning of life? Isn't it all pointless? Why not just commit suicide? Why exist?
Throughout his life, books were his escape. Elon was initially obsessed with physics, but soon he discovered that physics could explain everything about the universe, except why it existed. And that gap was eating him alive. He searched for answers in Nietzsche, then Schopenhauer, which he admits made life feel very bleak.
I got into the German philosophers, which is definitely not wise if you're a young teenager, I have to say.
And then he found The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This book is quite whimsical, and at first you'll wonder how in hell it helped Elon Musk with anything. The story opens with Arthur Dent, a very average Englishman, learning two things in rapid succession. One, his house is about to be bulldozed for a highway. Two, the entire Earth is about to be demolished for an interstellar bypass. But before the Earth is destroyed, Arthur and his friend manage to hitch a ride off-planet as a spaceship just happens to be passing by. They then become equipped with a very sarcastic electronic guidebook, a spaceship powered by the power of improbability, and a robot with depression.
Yeah, well, that's life.
Life? Don't talk to me about life.
The story spirals into absurd encounters throughout the galaxy, making fun of bureaucracy, human logic, and the search for life's meaning. This book reads like a parody of science fiction, but beneath the chaos and silliness lies a recurring idea. While we may know a lot of things about it, the universe doesn't come with a user manual, so you'd better learn to improvise. There's a very short and very famous passage in this book that I'm going to spoil because it's very relevant. At some point during the story, someone asks a supercomputer what's the meaning of life. And the supercomputer answers,
"The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
This sounds whimsical, but the logic behind the whimsy is that although humans have been asking this question since the origin of time, the question itself, according to Douglas Adams and the supercomputer, is not a very good question. Think about it this way. A cat looks at you and wonders, where's my food? It's not equipped to ask, what's the meaning of life? But the human brain, with the higher computing capacity, can arrive to that question. Except that's not the final question. It's just the best one we can currently formulate. Because to ask better questions, you need a more developed intelligence. And intelligence develops through what you feed it. Through books, experience, culture, the world around you. This book taught Musk that the most powerful thing a human being can do is learn to ask a better question. Most notably saying it taught him that the question is often harder than the answer.
Basically what Douglas Adams was saying is that we don't really know what the right questions are to ask. Frame the question correctly is the hard part. And if you can properly phrase the question, the answer is actually the easy part. So I thought things that expand the scope and scale of the human consciousness and allow us to better ask questions and achieve greater enlightenment, those are good things.
and he applies this entire framework to engineering and business. In 2001, flushed with that PayPal money,
Hi, Elon Musk speaking.
Musk sold his software company for $400 million cash.
Receiving cash is cash. I mean, those are just a large number of Ben Franklins.
and convinced humanity needed to become multiplanetary, Musk flew to Russia to buy decommissioned ICBMs, which are intercontinental ballistic missiles, so rockets built to carry nuclear weapons, which he figured the Russian would be happy to offload cheaply since they were headed to the scrapyard anyway. The negotiations involved an impressive amount of vodka and at least one Russian chief designer who got so tired of listening to Musk that he literally spat on his shoes. The Russians quoted him $21 million per rocket and wouldn't budge. So Musk walked out, and on the flight back home, instead of asking himself how to make rockets cheaper, he asked himself, what is a rocket actually made of? He looked up the raw materials. I don't know if he was using a phone, I'm assuming. He looked up the raw materials, aerospace grade aluminum, titanium, and copper, and calculated that they added up roughly to 2% of the price he'd just been quoted. 2%. SpaceX was founded shortly after. That entire framework is also why he didn't ask how to make electric cars cheaper, but why don't electric cars sell? And why do they look so damn ugly? And you can apply the same exact logic to your own life. Change of scenery here because we're being practical and there's nothing more practical than nature. Point is, you need to ask yourself questions that will help you get closer to answers that will help you see things more clearly. And this is the philosophy that Elon Musk has adopted in his entire life. And I say philosophy here intentionally because by his own words, Douglas Adams, who wrote this book, is his favorite philosopher.
Douglas Adams, best philosopher ever. Maybe, I think, best book of philosophy ever. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It is then of special interest to us here to shine some light on the philosophy that is woven throughout this book. The Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy sits at the intersection of two philosophical camps: existentialism and absurdism. Don't run away! I will explain, so please wait. Absurdism is the philosophical belief that the universe and the world we inhabit is meaningless. So, at its core, it has one argument. The universe has no inherent rulebook. It's Albert Camus that introduced this philosophy into the world, and for him, you cannot solve the meaning of life. All you can do is live defiantly and in full force within it. Life itself is the point. The second philosophy, existentialism, was popularized by Sartre, JP, and for him, there is no fundamental meaning to the universe. Therefore, you must create your own. To simplify it, if I give you a puzzle with no solution, Camus will tell you that trying to build the puzzle is the point. And Sartre will tell you that you create your own image out of the pieces of the puzzle. Consequently, by uniting both philosophies, which is kind of what this book does, you get to the conclusion that the frameworks that humans have built to explain reality are always going to be insufficient and lacking. Because reality doesn't have one specific foundation, and because our knowledge of reality is extremely limited and includes a lot of errors. This might sound depressing or confusing because we tend to like standing on solid ground. But the conclusion of absurdism and existentialism and Douglas Adams land on isn't despair, but freedom. Because if the rule books don't exist, then neither does the ceiling or the guardrails or the floor. You, me, us, we exist in an infinite space, which human thought has given specific shapes and forms to. But if you accept Douglas Adams' point, that shape or these shapes aren't really special or important. So you get to decide what things mean for yourself and which shape you want to inhabit. And again, this is what Elon Musk does for a living. He looked at Mars and said, why does everyone assume that's science fiction? I clearly don't know how to imitate him. I shall abstain from doing that again. He looked at the human brain and asked himself, why does everyone assume that the boundaries between biologies and machines have to remain fixed? At every single point of his career, there was a consensus among intelligent and serious people, as well as the general public and media, that what Elon Musk was attempting wasn't achievable. He was mocked. He was ridiculed.
Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, GM are all coming out with 300-mile electric luxury sedans. I think they're doomed. If he can't make money on the high-end Model S's and Model X's, how in the world is he going to make money on a $35,000 small car?
Tesla's a sell. You don't want to own this stock. You don't want to lease it. Heck, you shouldn't even rent the darn thing, because beyond the hype, there's just not much going on here.
There was something called the Tesla Death Watch, kind of counting down the days so when Tesla was going to disappear.
And at every single point, he treated that consensus, which most of us would have treated as verdict, as just another data point.
Making a decision when everyone tells you this is a crazy idea. Where do you get the internal strength to do that?
I think I feel fear quite strongly. It's not as though I just have the absence of fear. I feel it quite strongly. There are just times when something is important enough, that you believe in it enough, that you do it in spite of the fear.
When you had that third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up.
You don't tell Elon Musk what he can or can't do. He decides for himself. Because he knows that the universe doesn't play by your rules, or mine, or even his. He will just try anyway, regardless of all the data points around him, even if they all seem to be pointing in one direction. This works brilliantly when what's standing between what you want to achieve and where you are is an equation, or hardcore intense work, or a new way of looking at things. But it works differently if what's standing between you and what you want to achieve is a human being. When something is important enough for Elon Musk, he does it even if the odds are not in his favor. According to people who work closely with Musk, the worst thing you can do at SpaceX or any of his companies is tell him something is not possible. His response will be, fine, you're off the project. I'm now doing your job on top of mine and I will deliver. And apparently, most of the time, he does end up actually delivering. Regardless of your opinion of him, regardless of the news articles that portray him as just another dumb, lucky billionaire dude. One thing that's hard to disregard is that Elon Musk has so deeply internalized the idea that existing frameworks are made up that he genuinely does not process impossibility the way most people do. I really think that this book gave him, very early at 13, a philosophical predisposition to not take consensus reality too seriously. Not because constraints don't exist. Obviously, physics exists, otherwise I would be in Russia right now, visiting Dostoevsky's grave in St. Petersburg. The gap between what people believe is possible and what is actually possible has always existed. The sun revolves around us, matter is solid, time is fixed. All of these statements used to be fundamental truths, and now we know they're wrong. Human belief has never once kept up with human discovery, and Musk knows that.
When critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is,
we've done it.
But I don't want to romanticize that philosophy or Elon Musk without giving the negative counterpart to it. The mechanism Elon Musk has for filtering out this person or assumption as being negative or limiting from this person or assumption is actually correct is essentially his gut. And his gut, no matter how impressive its track record is, has been wrong multiple times, aggressively so sometimes, to the harm of many, many people.
Physics is the law, and everything else is a recommendation. You can break any law made by humans, but try breaking a law made by physics. It's much more difficult.
Because you've had this success in the physics world, you now have these very difficult decisions that have huge impacts on the world that are not physical decisions at all. They're decisions of the mind. They're decisions that you and others have to make, and there's a question whether you should be making these decisions at all.
And the issue with Musk is that he has achieved so much that the people that still support him and his companies tend to excuse most of his behavior. Humans have this tendency to romanticize the output of the grandiose figures that shaped our world at a bigger scale than most of us get to. And most of us agree not to look too hard at the wreckage these figures leave behind, but I think it's important to look at the wreckage. And we'll look at that wreckage in the next couple of videos. Anyway, I think the people that would benefit the most from reading this book are people that tend to play by the rules and seek certainty, or people who tend to look at things through a lens of negativity, or what they call rationality. The book will serve as a gentle push to look at things sideways. Did you hear my neck crack? What the hell? I really think that entrepreneurs, engineers, and problem solvers will find value in it. And if you're already comfortable with uncertainty, you might read it more for enjoyment than transformation. But be warned, although I like the humor here, you might heavily dislike it. Test the first chapter, and if you don't chuckle at least once, this is probably not for you. Over the next 14 videos, I'll explore what the rest of Elon Musk's reading list reveals about him, including the parts that are way harder to admire.
I would have to be insane if I thought the odds were in my favor.
Why even begin?
When something is important enough, you do it even though the odds are not in your favor.
Is there a squirrel? Ants.